Pregame.com.
All right, the college football regular season already winding down. We got a couple of great late season tips for you. This is Brad Powers of Pregame.com studios, just off the Vegas Strip. And indeed, college football, we're sad to see it go, the regular season, but there's ways to make some money this time of year. Got a couple of tips coming your way here in a second.
Yeah, it's November. I'm looking for basic strategy. 2 key tips plays that I want to look towards betting more often than not. What do you got for me?
Yeah, first one we got for you on the docket is we're looking to fade the top-ranked teams in the college football playoff. A lot of times they're overpriced. Example, I'll just use this year. The first 2 weeks of the college football playoff poll, the top 6 teams, the ones that they really feature there, if you're watching that ESPN broadcast, well, they've gone 3-9 against the spread, and we've even seen it in past years. 2 years ago, the top 4 teams in those 4 or 5 last weeks of the regular season, 5-14 against the number. Last week, first time the college football playoff poll gets released, 0-5 against the number are the top 5 teams. They're often overpriced. That's why there's value fading those teams.
And it makes a ton of sense to me, because what do we have here? We've got teams that have been winning. Typically, they've been covering. That's why they moved into that top 6, top 4 of the college football rankings. And oftentimes, that's as good as it's going to get for all these teams. The poster child probably was Georgia. The second they become the #1 team in the country, they become so massively overvalued, they don't come close to covering the next 2 games.
Yeah, it's not only that they're dealing with these overpriced points, but they're also dealing with some extra pressure by being so highly ranked. And in Georgia's case, which is a great example by you, they started to feel that noose get a little bit tighter, and you've seen them choke the last couple of weeks, at least against the spread. But one thing what I've noticed here in the last couple of years, and you got a heck of a lot more experience than me, you've been here 2 decades, is, boy, it's crazy, but even though you think these should be the sharpest lines of the college football season, we have all these data points that we've seen all year. Sometimes these last 2-3 weeks, I think the numbers get softer. Is it because, man, you got a big college basketball handicapping card going on as far as all these added board games? You got NBA, you got the NHL, you got the NFL. There's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, for the odds makers and for the bettors. So what happens? The odds makers have to set hockey lines. They've got to set NBA lines. They got to go ahead and set college basketball lines. And a lot of the bettors, and frankly, a lot of the very sharpest bettors, stop spending so much time on football, and they move on over to these other sports. To give an example, I might be talking to someone in the NFL. Here's a bet I lost. Hey, I got the Cleveland Browns plus 12.5. It closed plus 10.5. I'm getting texts like from my buddy Brent Crow, college basketball totals expert. He's like, I don't care. What are you doing? You can play Nebraska Omaha right now over 157. It closes 173. The line was literally off by 16 points. Why waste your time finding a football line that's off by a field goal?
And I think you bit off a little piece of that Nebraska Omaha over.
Yeah, we got a piece of that, yes.
And second factor for me here is, one thing that I'm looking forward to do in the last couple games of the season, I'm looking for these rivalry games because this is when they're played. And a lot of times I find some value in a motivated rivalry underdog because let's face it, a lot of these teams might have disappointing seasons, but if you just beat or at least compete with your big rival, a lot of times this can make your whole season. You get that rejuvenated uptick, at least for one game. And while I never want to do it blindly, but more often than not, I'm backing these big rivalry underdogs.
Yeah, and it can not just even be a rivalry, but just be a conference game that's an important game as well. It doesn't even have to be a team that's way down. You look at a middle-of-the-road, actually above-average SEC team, South Carolina, they're playing Georgia. They're getting 24.5 points. I mean, looking back on it, it's crazy. Georgia kills them, plays a great game. They still only win by 14, could never get the separation. You look at Florida State. Clemson, we'll talk about one that lost. Florida State catching 16.5 against Clemson. Florida State could have won the game. They're down 3 at the end of the game driving. Clemson gets a miracle cover, somehow wins by 17. It shows how difficult it can be with that extra point spread tax. Everything has to fall right for the favorite to cover.
No question. And I got to tell you, one of the more remarkable trends that I've seen this entire college football season, and I could be a trends guy, is 30-plus point underdogs for the whole season. If you just backed every 30-plus point dog, 57-21 against the spread. Would have loved to have known that prior to the season. Would have had a lot better sales, handicapping, bets, you name it, had I known that coming in.
And you see some crazy line moves that make no sense at all. You see 29-point favorites going up to 34 points. And it was like, what was it, UMass was playing?
Mississippi State, yeah.
And another advantage there is that oftentimes when the spread's that high, you get all kinds of rogue numbers. That there was a UCF game, right, that was they were laying 38, and you could get 40.5 in Vegas right before kickoff, because what happens at the square books, the stations, the coasts, etc., the favorites just get bet up so high right at post.
Yeah, no question about it, and that's why there continues to be value. And while we might not see a lot of 30-plus point dogs moving forward, just another, a great trend you can use in your repertoire.
Very good. Scrappy Connecticut team coming.
Love it.
Let's make it official here.
Yeah, we're going to make it official here. Here's a couple of great late-season handicapping tips in college football. First off, I look to fade the top-ranked teams in the college football playoff poll. Look at this year as a great example. The top 6 teams the first 2 weeks, they're overpriced. 3-9 against the number. And I'm also looking to back these motivated, big rivalry underdogs. Let's face it, they might have had a disappointing season, but if they compete and maybe get that outright upset over their rival, they can make their whole season. Sometimes there's a lot of value in that. And when you add all that up, we'll have more great videos coming with bowl season coming up at you here at pregame.com.